Snoqualmie Falls is the definition of an attraction. Transcending all facets of culture, this majestic 270-foot waterfall has lured visitors to the site since humans first arrived in the Northwest. Today, the falls is one of the most popular destinations in the region, drawing approximately 2 million visitors a year. As part of the relicensing of its hydroelectric operations at the falls, Puget Sound Energy spent more than 2 decades planning and upgrading its power plants and improving the surrounding park and wildlife area. This effort was made with a deep understanding that the falls holds a special place in the hearts of all those who have experienced its power and mystique.
It has become very important to celebrate that history and that heritage of the falls.
Scientists have confirmed that the first people entered the Snoqualmie Valley just after the Ice Age, some 10,000 years ago. For these first tribal peoples, the inherent power of Snoqualmie Falls was undeniable, inspiring lore that has been passed down for hundreds of generations.
This is where we were created. This is where we come from. The creation story tells us that this is where the transformer, Okwebeth, transformed everything into what it is. It's the very beginning of who we are. And the water, as it plunges down to the pool and the mist goes up into the sky, that's connecting us back to our ancestors. So it's, in a way, it's our birth and kind of our death.
The tribe, known as the Snoqualmie, or People of the Moon, had multiple villages above and below the falls. Spread throughout this vicinity, the Snoqualmie people numbered 4,000 strong and were one of the largest tribes in the Puget Sound area. Because the falls held such spiritual significance to the various tribes in the region, the upper Snoqualmie River became a neutral site for gathering and trading.
Tribes as far away as Yakima, Wenatchee, Snoqualmie, Duwamish, Suquamish, tribes that make up the Tulalip Reservation, Lower Skagit, Stillaguamish, Samish, and even down into northern Oregon, I've heard, would come up here. It's a very spiritual area, tying us all together. It's a connection to who we are fundamentally in our bones.
As early as 1851, Native Americans introduced the falls to Puget Sound's earliest pioneers. While searching for coal deposits, Samuel Hancock was canoed upriver by a Snoqualmie guide. Hancock described the falls as a most beautiful and imposing spectacle.
If a settler was coming from Seattle, it would typically take about a week to get into the Snoqualmie Valley. You'd have to catch a boat from Seattle, go to Everett, and then take a canoe up the Snohomish River into the Snoqualmie.
Word of the falls soon spread, encouraging adventurous settlers to make the trek. An 1855 copy of the Seattle Weekly Gazette reported on the expedition of 15 men and women to the falls. In June of 1889, the construction of the Seattle, Lakeshore, and Eastern Railroad reached the falls, offering the first passenger service to the area.
When the first passenger train came to the Snoqualmie Falls in 1889, it was a huge event for the Snoqualmie Valley. Prior to the train coming, there were handfuls of families here in the valley. They held a huge party for the first train coming, and they were expecting like 100 people to come with the first train, and 1,000 people showed up. They'd hold special programs. So there was a tightrope walker that walked over the falls, and that brought a bunch of people up to see the falls. And then there was a promotion that this man was going to parachute out of a hot air balloon. Unfortunately, with that event, there was an updraft, and Charlie Anderson, who was the parachutist, he was crashed against the boulders. And the devastating part is his mom came because she had heard that there was going to be a parachutist, and she didn't know until afterwards that it was her son that had parachuted out. and she watched him die, unfortunately.
Word spread quickly about how incredible the view was at Snoqualmie Falls, and the popularity of the excursions exploded. The Seattle PI in the area reported that there was going to be a veritable outbreak of matrimony in Seattle as a result of the Seattle Lakeshore and Eastern's Snoqualmie Falls excursions.
Easy railroad access prompted the construction of a hotel in 1890 on the south side of the falls.
Well, in the era of the late 19th century, the idea of a vacation of any sort was really a new idea.
The Snoqualmie Falls Hotel advertised drinks of all kinds, a dining room, and a covered dance pavilion that extended over the face of the cliff. In 1899, civil engineer Charles Baker completed the nation's first all-underground hydroelectric plant at the falls.
This was the dawn of the electrical age, and Charles Baker wanted to invite people to his plant to show it off. He made the grounds beautiful, he made the buildings beautiful, and he invited people there.
The hydro plant was such a marvel of its day that President McKinley scheduled a visit for the spring of 1901.
He's actually the first president who comes out to the west, beyond the Mississippi, and this is a big deal. Unfortunately, the First Lady gets sick in San Francisco, and so they can't go on.
Over the years, the falls continued to beckon curious travelers. In the summer of 1914, the Auto Interurban Company offered a 26-passenger coach to the falls for $2.
The automobile is kind of coming into popularity. The trains that have long been the way people get around are starting to be replaced with road systems.
In 1919, the area's rutted dirt roads were replaced by the Sunset Highway, creating even easier access to the falls for tourists in their own automobiles. The Sunset Highway not only made passenger train service obsolete, it brought passengers to the other side of the falls, which offered an even more impressive view. The same year, the Snoqualmie Falls Lodge was built on this newly accessible north side. The 8-room inn was a rest stop catering to early travelers crossing the Snoqualmie Pass from the east and weekend motorists from the west.
It became a great tourist destination. There was a great scenic view of the falls, and you could stay the night at the hotel.
To accommodate the growing number of visitors to the north side of the falls, Puget Sound Power and Light, which now ran the hydro plant, began improving the grounds.
They started planting rose bushes, started planting shrubbery, and eventually they started putting picnic tables in.
The evolution of the park continued in 1968 when an observation deck was built. The view became one of the most photographed in the state. As the popularity of the falls grew, it prompted a $14 million renovation of the Northside Hotel. The 91-room Salish Lodge, which opened in 1988, became a luxury destination regularly listed as one of the top lodges, spas, and dining locations in the world. As the 20th century drew to a close, Puget Sound Energy pursued a new operating license for the Snoqualmie Falls Hydroelectric Facility. The license allowed the company to undertake a thorough redevelopment of its power-generating systems. Puget Sound Energy also took this opportunity to embark on a variety of projects to improve the visitor experience at the falls.
This is just another opportunity for Puget Sound Energy to find out what the public wanted and to try to deliver that.
The company redesigned a 10-acre section of Snoqualmie Falls Riverside Park to include an educational facility for students, improved river access for kayakers, expanded parking, and public restrooms. A trail from the area now leads to an improved boardwalk and observation platform at the base of the falls. The upper park was also reinvented with improved and expanded viewing areas, as well as new landscaping, walkways, interpretive displays, and educational signage.
Within the park, along the trails and along major viewpoints, we have interpretive signs. Some of them are historical, some of them are more cultural, some of them are really hydrotechnology oriented. And we worked with many different people to figure out what they should say.
They went to the local museums and asked us all to participate.
We had the opportunity to work with the Snoqualmie tribe We wanted to be able to have the Snoqualmie kind of tell us from their perspective why this place is special.
As you walk through the park, you'll notice plant identification signs. We would have a native plant, and we would ask what is the native Lachute name, and then what would be the native use for the plant.
Above the falls, on the south side of the river, the hydropower facility's historic carpenter shop and train depot have been renovated to house exhibits and artifacts that tell visitors the history of the plant. One artifact on display is the original Unit 5 turbine, which is seeing the light of day for the first time in over 100 years.
The redevelopment project has been a great opportunity for us to sort of reinvent the park areas to make a much better visitor experience.
From the first humans to inhabit the Puget Sound region to travelers from around the world today, the beauty and power of Snoqualmie Falls is undeniable. It is a Northwest treasure that inspires wonder and deserves the utmost care. Puget Sound Energy's stewardship of the falls is a great source of pride for the company.
It's the second most visited park in Washington, besides Mount Rainier, and so we're taking our opportunities to improve it and make it more valuable for the people who come to visit it.
In a way, it's tying the area back to a gathering area, something that brings multiple cultures together.